Welcome to bringing Jesus back into focus. It became very blurry under Emperor Constantine because the Roman Christian soldiers, because of the corrupt Christian leaders, were allowed to go and kill other children on earth in the Roman army and still be Christians. So of course they weren't Christians, they became Jewish Christians. So that's when the Judeo-Christian church really became deeply embedded and poisoned the Christian religion from then on. And you've got the medieval crusades and on it goes. So basically I'm a Christian, I'm a pacifist Christian. I belong to the very first people who heard Jesus talk about the divine, loving, spiritual creator whose entire consciousness is only love. And there's another dimension, another world, another universe, which is called spiritual, called heaven. Buddha would call it nirvana. And it's a place where there is no suffering whatsoever, there is no death, there is no pain. There is great love and great joy. And the reason it's like that is because it's what Jesus would call singular. Jesus said if your eye is single, your whole body will be filled with light. When your mind is cleared out of all the adventitious negativities or evil things that you're thinking about, and you search for this mind of only love, as Jesus and Buddha both did, when you do actually finally experience it, then you become a spiritually enlightened child of heaven. That's when your true spiritual mind fully awakens from another dimension in your spiritual body that's in your body of flesh right now, which is exactly what Jesus taught, and Buddha taught the same type of thing. You've got two bodies with you, two different aspects of yourself. Both Jesus and Buddha taught this. One's going to leave the body of flesh. Both Buddha and Jesus taught it just rots and goes back to the earth. Jesus taught that, feed it to the vultures, he said. Buddha taught the same thing. They both said it's this beautiful mind of love that you have to find within yourself, which is the treasure hidden in the field. Then you can go to this next dimension, this other world where any child of love on earth can go to. So being a pacifist Christian, although I was born into the Jewish Christian Catholic Church, I left when I was 16 because of these lies they were teaching. Firstly, the Jewish religion there's only one God in the whole Bible. That's the first lie. We all know that the Jews worship two gods. When I say we all know, those of us who have eyes to see. They worship a brutal murdering war god, and you see that in full flight at the slaughter of Jericho, where their war god Yahweh won, tells them to go down and murder everybody, steal everything and steal the land. And they go and do it. And they thank Yahweh and praise Yahweh, whoop-de-doo. And they take all the treasure back to Yahweh's temple. But then there's another God of love and forgiveness and peace. Now that God in Leviticus says, if some foreigners are among you, for example a family from Jericho, treat them as if they're Jewish and love them as you would a Jew. Love them as yourself. Now one God says go down to Jericho and murder them, all their foreigners, and just steal everything. I'm Yahweh, I'm the great Yahweh, you're one God. Great, says Joshua and the Israelites, and off they go down and do it. Of course, there is no such God. It's a figment of the imagination. They're murdering thieves, and they project it up into a life force that's consciousness is evil, but the consciousness of evil is actually in themselves. But then this other God says, no, treat foreigners as if they're like you. Love them as yourself. Now they're two completely different gods. One is white and good and love. One is black and dark and evil. All the other cultures, the Romans, the Greeks, the Egyptians, for example, they had separate temples for those gods and separate names because they knew they are opposing forces, opposing gods, opposites. Now that Jewish religion, with their schizophrenic religion, one body called Yahweh with these two heads stuck on it, the Catholic Church was trying to tell me that's the God of Jesus. I said, I'm sorry, that's a perverted hybrid. That's nothing to, there's a loving God, yeah, okay, I see that. But what about this other murdering, genocidal maniac? Sorry, I'm going. And this book of Revelation, I had to read of that. Why have you got that in there? Why don't you denounce that? Oh no, it's very complicated, but Jesus will come back with this God and start wars. starvation and sickness on children, but you have to understand it in the context of the overall plan of Yahweh from the beginning of the Jews all the way through. I said, wait a minute. First of all, the loving spiritual creator of Jesus is not Yahweh, because there's two Yahwehs. Which one are you talking about? Oh no, there's only one Yahweh. Oh, look, I'm out here. Sorry. If you don't understand that, I'm going. Bye. So I went and studied with Buddhist monks, and of course Buddha taught the same thing Jesus said. You've got to remove the dirt from your mind, and you'll have the clear light mind experience of love. Your mind must be singular, and then you'll be an awakened one like Buddha. The word Buddha means the awakened one. You've got to wake up to your true singular identity of love. So I just studied a lot of different faiths and religions and things in my late teens and early 20s, because I loved spiritual thinking, and I always saw Jesus as love and non-violence. I always loved his words. I didn't even understand why they were reading the Jewish religion to us in a Christian church, but they did it every week, so whatever. And it wasn't until these last 5 years I investigated, after my mother passed on and sister passed on, I had some free time, and I thought, I wonder how everyone else is teaching about Jesus. And I was shocked, totally shocked. Some of the churches I went to who claimed to be Christian are just synagogues. All they talk about is the Jewish religion, Yahweh did this, Yahweh did that. And then Jesus is coming back on the clouds, he's coming soon, blah, blah, blah. And I thought, blimey, they're not even looking at his words. They don't even understand who he is or who this loving spiritual life force that he was at one with is. So this book, The Gospels of Jesus Unplugged, is out now around the world. I'm a Christian, so if you read my translation of the Gospels, you'll find there's no references to apocalypse. The apocalypse, you got to understand, the book of Revelation is a filthy, slanderous book put in the end of the Gospels by an apocalyptic Jew to assassinate who Jesus is and assassinate who God is. That is the God of Jesus. It doesn't assassinate who the war god of the Jews is. That is the war god of the Jews. Someone stumped the war god of the Jews, Satan, in the book of Revelation. And they're saying Jesus is coming as the child of the Satan God to do all these evil things. That is a satanic book based on the Yahweh war god. As Jesus said to the Jews, you are children of your father, Satan. He was a murderer and a liar from the start. You do the lusts and desires of him. You go down to Jericho and kill everyone and steal everything. You're worshipping a war god. Stop doing it. You must love. Jesus tried to bring them out of it. They refused to go. They murdered him. Okay. That's the Jewish way of their times back then. Those who did follow Jesus out of the dualistic Jewish religion moved into the monotheistic religion of Jesus. God is only love. Her love is like the sun that rises on the good and the evil. Her love is like the rain that falls on the just and the unjust. If your loving mind is not as perfect as her loving mind, you will not enter her dimension. The spiritual dimension is created by some type of spiritual consciousness or being of love. Anyone who here on earth, who has a spiritual body filled with love, can leave at the time of death, and your spiritual mind and spiritual body will go to heaven. That is what Jesus taught. And Buddha taught the same thing, that your mind or your consciousness will leave and go to nirvana. And there's no more suffering for those children who commit to being pacifist and full of love now in a violent dualistic world. So it's not easy. But Jesus said it wouldn't be easy, and Buddha said the same thing. But they explain to you how to do it, and to have faith that there's life after the death of your body of bones and flesh and meat and muscles. There's another body you've got with you which is beautiful. There's another dimension and another universe and another world that's beautiful beyond anything we can imagine. But it's only love. The loving spiritual life force, and Jesus can never hurt anyone. They never will, they never have, and they just never can. When your entire mind is love, you'll understand that's who you really are. Now, all these satanic murderers in the world at the moment, the warmongers, they're all Satan's children. They don't know their true identity. See, they've shifted into the shadow figure that they've created out of their own egotistical imagination. That's what Satan is, a liar and a murderer. So they're living a lie. They're not in this true spiritual identity of the loving creator that she gave them to have. They've moved out of that, covered themselves in tens and tens of thousands of murders, so that there's no way known they're entering heaven now. And then they're going to reap what they sow after their body of flesh dies, because their spirit will still be alive, even though it's only tiny and it's only got a drop of spiritual loving life force in it now. Netanyahu, the Israeli army, the Russian army, Putin, Hamas, they've only got a tiny drop of spiritual life force in them now because they're so evil now, they're so satanic. They are Satan's favourite children, all these armies now. So they've got big problems. So as a Christian, I was very disturbed by this because they weren't teaching the truth about Jesus at all, these Jewish Christians. And they were lying about all sorts of things. Your dead body of flesh comes back up again at some apocalypse where Jesus comes. That is complete Jewish overlay. That's the Jewish religion overlaid onto what Jesus said, confusing, distorting, perverting. So I realised when I was talking to sort of our loving Creator and Jesus about this, I said, look, I think I can write about this because I've never seen it that way. They're wrong. I know they're wrong. And I'll try to write about it. So I wrote this book, The Gospels of Jesus Unplugged. This is the second edition of the Gospels. The first ones, I had to rush it out because I was very ill physically. So I had to just get a better translation out. But this is a more complete, sort of clearer, flowing dialogue of the Gospels of Jesus. And it's available around the world. And because I'm a Christian, and I'm not a Jewish Christian, and I'm not poisoned by the Jewish religion at all, or the book of Revelation, which just rip it up, burn it, use it to start a fire. I mean, then it's at least useful, That's going to take you away from who Jesus is. It's going to take you away from who God is, the God of Jesus, that is, the loving life force. And it's going to take you away from heaven. That's the war god of the Jews, that Revelation book, put in by an apocalyptic Jew to assassinate Jesus and the loving Creator. So that's my message to the world. Now, you only have to look at his words to understand what I'm saying is correct. It's intelligent and logical, and it's right there in front of your face. And yet, stunningly, through just being completely brainwashed, everyone says, no, there's only one God in the Jewish religion. No, we've been told that forever, so it must be true. If you're told a lie forever, it doesn't make it true. So that's the book. And so we're up to reading John. And it's I love John. So the contents of the book are basically right there. And so all the important gospel events and teachings of Jesus are in it. But you'll find, because I'm only a Christian and a pacifist Christian, so there aren't many of us left of the original church, very few of us left now in the world of the original church. Firstly, we don't worship Yahweh, right? Because which Yahweh are you talking about? The murdering satanic war god of the Jews, Yahweh? Or the loving Yahweh that's pretty good, but not as good as the divine, pure love that Jesus was at one with, the loving, spiritual creator of the spiritual universe and spiritual world of love. That's the source of my spiritual life, that being, that life force, that energy. So I only connect to that loving, pure energy. And then I have to become clean to receive it. And that's how Jesus said, I'll get to heaven. Clean yourself now, clean out the inside of your mind, the inside of the cup, have the clear light mind experience of love, remove all evil from your thoughts, and then manifest love on earth for other children before your body of flesh dies, rots and stinks. Leave in your beautiful spiritual body that's full of love. That's the one you want to be in at death. When death happens, you want to leave in the beautiful body full of love, with a mind of love and kindness and compassion, equanimity, forgiveness. That's the mind and that's the body you want to leave in, but it's your spiritual body. The body of flesh is dangerous. The brain's dualistic. Love, hate. We leave that behind, thank heavens. And there's no toilet paper in heaven. We have bodies like angels. Moving on. Jesus' brothers doubt him. John 7, 1-9. Jesus continued, I'll just get the arrow down here. Where are we? About. Jesus continued in Galilee, for he did not want to walk in Judea, because the Jews sought to kill him. Now the Feast of Tabernacles was at hand. His brothers said to him, Depart from here and go into Judea, that your followers there may also see the works that you are doing. For no one does anything in secret while he himself seeks to be known openly. If you do these things, show yourself to the world. For even his own brothers doubted him. Then Jesus said, My time has not yet come, but your time is always ready. The world cannot hate you, but it hates me, because I testify of it that its works are evil. You go up to this feast I am not yet going up, for my time has not yet fully come. Jesus then remained in Galilee. So he testifies that there's a lot of evil in the world. He even said, the Jews, you're worshipping a satanic war god. I mean, that's where all the evil comes from. All these military war gods that they worship. And the Jews worship their Sekhmet. Sekhmet, the Egyptian war god Sekhmet, breathes fire to incinerate the enemies of the Egyptians. That's Sekhmet. Breathes fire, incinerates the enemies. Well, what does Yahweh do in their Jewish religion? Two boys bring up an offering to Yahweh, and it's the wrong offering. They brought up a peanut butter sandwich instead of a cheese sandwich. So Yahweh incinerates them. Elijah calls Yahweh, the war god, to send down fire to incinerate these people who have come to take him to the king. And Yahweh incinerates them. That's Sekhmet. The Jews worship Sekhmet, the Egyptian war god. It's the same war god. They're all the same. They're all satanic. It's just a different name for the same thing. All evil. Jesus at Feast of Tabernacles. Oh, wait a minute. Author. Jesus was an awakened spiritual child of our loving spiritual creator. Children who worship material things and earthly power hate spiritual children because their whole being is filled only with love, exposing the greed and evil of other children through the beautiful spiritual contrast that emanates from their spiritual body and soul. The trouble with beautiful spiritual children in this world is that they, make all the evil people look bad. Not because they want to, it's automatic. They're lights in the darkness. Children in darkness hate the light. John 7:10-44. Jesus at Feast of Tabernacles. His brothers left and went to the feast. Jesus then went, but not openly. The Jews searched for him at the feast, for there was much talk about him among the people. Some said he was a good man, while others said he is a deceiver. But no one spoke openly about him for fear of the Jews. During the feast, Jesus entered the temple and taught. The Jews were amazed that such an unlearned man could teach such spiritual teachings. He's enlightened. He's connected to heaven. His spiritual body is truly alive. Jesus said, my teaching is not mine, but she who sent me. If anyone follows her will, he will know if my teaching is from the loving spiritual creator or whether I'm just speaking on my own authority. He who speaks out of his own opinion seeks his own selfish glory, but he who seeks to glorify and honor the one who sent him is true, and in him there is no deceit or evil intent. Moses gave you the law, yet none of you keeps the law. Why do you seek to kill me? They answered, saying, you have a demon in you. Who is seeking to kill you? Jesus replied, I did one deed in front of you, and you all marveled. But because I healed the man on the Sabbath, you are angry with me. Do not judge according to appearance, but judge with virtuous judgment. Some of them said, is this not he whom the Jewish leaders seek to kill? But look, he speaks boldly, and they say nothing to him. Do the rulers know indeed that this is truly the Messiah? However, they knew where Jesus was from, but none would know where the Messiah was from. So how can some say he is the Anointed One? Jesus then proclaimed, you both know me and know where I am from, for I have not come of my own accord. She who sent me is true, whom you do not know. But I know her, for I am from her, and she sent me. And they wanted to arrest him, but no one was willing to lay a hand on him. Many people believed in him, saying, when the Messiah does come, will he do more miracles and signs than this man? The Pharisees heard the crowd murmuring these things about him, so the Pharisees and the chief priests sent officers to seize him. Then Jesus said to them, I shall be with you a little while longer, and then I'll go to her who sent me. You will seek me and not find me, and where I am, you cannot come. The Jews said among themselves, where does he intend to go, that we shall not find him? Does he intend to go to the Jewish dispersion among the Greeks and teach the Greeks? What does he mean when he said, you will seek me and not find me, and where I am, you cannot come? On the last day, the great day of the feast, Jesus stood and cried out, saying, if anyone thirsts, let him come to me and drink. He who believes in me, as the scripture has said, out of his heart will flow rivers of living water. Now this he said about the loving spiritual life force, which those who believed in him and his teachings were to receive from the loving spiritual Creator to bring their spirits alive. After hearing Jesus say these things, there was division among the people about who he was. Some said he is a prophet, while others said he was the Messiah, but some questioned his authenticity. Author: Jesus states his spiritual teachings come from the loving Creator in the heavenly spiritual world, and anyone filled with her love will understand his teachings are correct. He questions why they are attacking him when all he does is good. He tells them that if they follow his spiritual teachings and way, they will awaken and also receive the living, loving, spiritual life force from the heavenly Creator into their spirits, which can then flow out of their spirits to other children in need. There is division amongst the Jews about Jesus, with some believing in him and others not. The Jewish authorities want him arrested and silenced, as he was taking many Jews away from worshipping their two-headed God Yahweh to only follow the one true loving spiritual Creator of Jesus. He also tells them he will soon be leaving in his spiritual body to be with our loving spiritual Creator in heaven, but they do not understand this. They had no idea about two bodies, that we've all got two bodies. One's spiritual and one's just an earthly body, biological body of flesh, a creature body that's dualistic. And the earth goes to earth and spirit goes to spirit. That's why spirit has to be clean to enter the clean spiritual world, because there's only love there. So no violent children can come there. So don't worry if children have been violent to you or murdering you in these wars, these satanic children. They can't come to heaven and hurt you anymore. They'll be in a screaming hell of their own making. But anyway, it's another story. Jesus avoids arrest. John 7:45-52. The officers sent to arrest Jesus returned to the chief priests and Pharisees, who said to them, "Why have you not brought him?" They said, "No man ever spoke like this man." Then the Pharisees said, "Are you also deceived? Have any of the Jewish rulers or Pharisees believed in him? This crowd that does not know the law is cursed." Nicodemus said to them, "Does our Lord judge a man before it hears him and knows what he is doing?" They answered, "Are you also from Galilee? Search and look, for no prophet has arisen out of Galilee." Woman caught in adultery. One of my favourite stories about Jesus. Beautiful. John 8:1-12. Jesus went to the Mount of Olives. In the morning he came into the temple and taught. And the scribes and Pharisees brought to him a woman caught in the act of adultery. And they placed her in the midst of them and said to Jesus, "Teacher, this woman was caught in the act of adultery. Moses in the law commanded us that such a woman should be stoned to death. But what do you say?" That's the war god Yahweh of the Jews, the murderer, the killer. They said this to try and trap him in blasphemy, so they might accuse him. But Jesus stooped down and wrote on the ground with his finger, ignoring them. And as they continued asking him, he stood up and said to them, "He who is without sin amongst you, let him throw a stone at her first." And he stooped down again and continued to write words on the ground in front of them. Then those who heard him say this, being convicted by their own conscience, left one by one, beginning with the oldest. And Jesus was left alone with the woman in the midst of them. When Jesus stood up and saw the woman standing alone, he said to her, "Woman, where are those who accuse you? Has no one condemned you?" She said, "No one, Master." Then Jesus said to her, "Neither do I condemn you. Go, but sin no more." He then said, "I am the light of the world. He who follows me shall not walk in darkness, but have the light of spiritual life." See, the Jews were going to murder her because they're walking in the darkness of the war god Yahweh, the murderer, the killer, the satanic war god. But Jesus is the light of love. So what did he do to the woman who committed adultery? He pours his love over her, forgives her. She's already ashamed and embarrassed beyond, anything you can imagine, nearly going to be murdered. And he forgives her warns her, well, don't do that anymore. You won't get into heaven if you keep doing that. It won't be easy to get into heaven. Author, Jesus had a very difficult situation to contend with, but dealt with it on a number of levels through the loving spiritual life force and wisdom that empowered his spiritual body and soul mind of love. The Jews worshipped the two-headed God and the Yahweh one Godhead of war and death, whom they loved to serve any chance they could get, was the source of this violent condemnation and potential murder of the woman. The Yahweh 2 Godhead of love is ignored when they want to murder or steal. Firstly, he had to save the woman's life. Then he had to do it without committing blasphemy against the two-headed God of the Jews to avoid being murdered by them himself for contradicting their two-headed God Yahweh and Moses. He knew what they were trying to do. They wanted to kill him as well. That's why they brought the woman to him. They knew he was sort of forgiving sinners and blessing people who were, corrupt or something. So they were hoping they could kill him as well. If they could just get him to blaspheme the two-headed Yahweh God, the war God. If he openly spoke that Moses followed the false two-headed God, they would have killed him on the spot. He accomplished this in a very simple, effective, and powerful way that the murderers could not easily get out of. He just wrote down many of the other rules and laws of the Jewish religion on the ground of dirt for them to see. That's all he did. He wrote down all the other, thou shalt not lie, thou shalt not steal, thou shalt not whatever. He knew they were all imperfect in some way and had undoubtedly broken these laws also. Once they saw these other laws that he wrote, each individual realized they were guilty of transgressing the law also, like this woman. And since they didn't want to be stoned to death if anyone found it out, it prompted their own conscience to walk away from committing murder as Moses instructed them to do. This sort of profound wisdom can only arise through being a fully awakened spiritual child of our loving spiritual Creator, as Jesus had become. At the same time as saving his and the woman's life, he was helping them question their own perverted religion to help them see how brutal their Yahweh one Godhead of war and death really is. They were devoid of true spiritual love and life, so he was directing them to find the one true loving spiritual Creator who can never hurt any child. And he was providing for them a true living example of how a spiritual child of our loving spiritual Creator in this world behaves towards a woman in sin. He comforts her, advises her, don't do that anymore. But I'm not going to stone you to death. I'm not a murderer like the followers of the war God of the Jews. That's not my God. Finally, he pours out his and our loving Creator's love over her shame to heal her of this wrongdoing and its consequences, and lovingly advises her to continue on her way in this world towards heaven by not sinning anymore. They want you only to come to heaven. That's all they want. They only love you to heaven. Unlike the two-headed God of the Jews and its followers, he and our loving spiritual Creator cannot murder or kill anyone, for their entire mind and being is empowered only by her loving spiritual life force, as Jesus stated in the Sermon on the Mount. They are single in their identity and are not divided within, like the two-headed God of the Jews, and are full of light and love for all her children, and only save them to heaven and never condemn them. It's that's such one of my most favourite episodes of Jesus. It's such a beautiful, profound wisdom. So here Jesus gives us all a beautiful example of how to engage with any child who has committed a wrongdoing through seeing them through the eye of love, compassion and forgiveness, instead of hatred and brutal judgment, and in this case, murder them, become a murderer. I mean, that's what they were becoming, murderers. Jesus does nothing like that. He can't do anything like that. Neither can the true loving one Creator of Jesus do that either. So that's why I've had to do this work, because I'm a true follower of the original group of followers of Jesus, the pacifist followers of Jesus and the way to heaven, and get your spiritual body ready to leave your body of flesh when it dies and goes back to the earth and rots, just as Jesus' body did. He left in his beautiful, perfect spiritual body. They had to cover it up, the apostles, because the Jews weren't ready to believe that. So they said he had a body of flesh that rose again. But it was a spiritual body. You see it in John. John gives you the big clue. Don't try to hug me, Mary. You can't. I'm in a spiritual body now. John's very excellent because he gives you the most beautiful clue that confirms everything Jesus taught. You have a perfect spiritual body and a perfect spiritual mind of love with you right now to find within your life. But you've got to get past your dualistic brain mind, you see. The dualistic brain mind will block it. You know, oh, I love them, oh, I hate them, oh, I'm a racist, you know, I'm this, I'm that, I'm black, you're white. Whatever it is, oh, you're a Palestinian, I'll kill you, or you're a Jew, I'll kill you, oh, I hate you, oh, I hate you. I love these people, I love my own. Dualistic, darkness. It all blocks the love coming into you from heaven. And you can't enter heaven if you're dualistic. It's impossible. So you can't be black and white and enter heaven. You have to be only white. So Jesus just is an extraordinary example of what all of us can achieve in our own life. It doesn't mean the world's going to change, but it means my part of the world as a human being on the planet changes. I can't hurt anyone anymore because I'm a pacifist Christian. I would go against everything Jesus said. I won't be in heaven. I won't enter it. I won't be able to get in if I start hurting people and killing or murdering like all the satanic armies of the world. They're all Satan's children, all the armies. They're all Satan's children, teaching other children how to murder other children. Now, so we have to remain with Jesus only. The Jewish religion is simply poisoning the Christian religion. Poisoning for this loving spiritual being that Jesus was at one with, whose entire mind is only love. Jesus' mind was only love. Buddha's mind was only love. My mind must be only love. What mind is that? That's the mind of my spiritual body that's going to leave at the time of my death, providing I am filled with the loving spiritual life force from heaven that brings my spirit alive, as Jesus said, and I'm living out of it now while I've got a brief chance to do so, and love your family, your friends, your mother, your father, your children, your neighbours, your whatever. Bring love from heaven into the world, manifesting it through your physical body, but it's actually really coming from heaven into your spiritual body and then through your physical body. It's the water in the vase analogy. The water falls from heaven into the clay vase, your spiritual body. But the clay vase conceals it. You can't see the spiritual body through the clay vase, but it's in there. But it's water. It's not clay. It's a different substance. We've all got that in us, all of us. Everyone has a spiritual body in the whole world, not just Christians or not just Jews or not just Muslims or you know, and atheists have it too, you know. It's a universal truth. There's another dimension that's spiritual and it's only loving. And you can go there, and all of us can. Why we're born here, well, there are different aspects. There are different teachings about that. But the main thing is this: the only way to get to the other world where there's no suffering anymore for all of us is we must, in this world, cause no suffering. And love and forgive and try to help others. Never join an army, navy or air force, whatever you do, and learn how to kill other children. Never do that. Never work in the armaments industry. Never do that. Never work in any evil industry, the gambling industry, etc. Never do any of those things. They hurt children. All those industries kill, murder, damage. Don't do that. But rather just love other children and help them. That means your spiritual body will be well and healthy, and then you will leave at death in your spiritual body. So Jesus taught this very clearly, and you can just see how he couldn't hurt that woman. He didn't even abuse her, call her names or anything. No, she's committed a wrong. She's already suffered deep remorse. She's been publicly shamed. I mean, publicly shamed in front of everyone. I mean, wow. She's already broken. Her reputation, whatever, even if it was not known before, it's known now. And so Jesus feels compassion for her. She's remorseful, undoubtedly deeply sorry at what has caused to happen to her. So Jesus just says, oh well, I'm not going to condemn you for you. But don't do any more of that. Don't sin anymore. Now go on your way to heaven. See, Jesus only brings you out of sin to take you to heaven. He doesn't go like the Yahweh war god. You've sinned, right? I'm gonna incinerate you. You're incinerated. Anyone else want to say anything against me? Oh no, Yahweh one war god. No, we don't want to do everything I say. Oh yes, Yahweh war god one. Yes. Oh, I'll incinerate you. Oh yes, Yahweh. You're a wonderful God, Yahweh. Yahweh war god one. Jesus is nothing like that. And neither is the divine, loving, spiritual creator of heaven. They're not like that. This is the insane world. Heaven's sane. Heaven's only love. Anyone can go there if you're love. If you're love here on earth, you're sane. Your sanity is fine. Your spiritual mind is fine. And if you're a pacifist Christian or a pacifist Buddhist or a pacifist Jew or a pacifist Hindu or whatever, a pacifist atheist, and you're full of love and kindness and forgiveness and compassion and generosity, equanimity towards all, whether you know it or not, you're living out of your spiritual body and mind intuitively. The great spiritual teachers like Buddha and Jesus actually teach you how to really awaken it. I mean, really bring it alive and experience this clear light mind experience. That's the spiritual mind. And that's what meditation is all about in Buddhism. And that's what Jesus went out to the countryside to get away from the city, so he could clean his mind out of all the stuff, all the collective consciousness of the dualistic religion of the Jews, and just connect to the oneness back in the countryside, and then go back into the dualistic cities of the Jews and try to bring them out of the dualism that they were stuck in, the dark and the light. So he's beautiful. His words are beautiful. I love that story. Just fantastic. We'll move on now with the next episode of John. And as I say, I'm a Christian, so the way I talk, you won't hear very many children talk the way I talk. I'm not inspirational or anything, but I'm quite logical and fairly intelligent in the way I see Jesus' words have to match his actions, and that has to match the loving creator of Jesus. They all match. Love, 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 non-violence, non-violence, non-violence. That is the God, the divine source of life that was in Jesus, in his spiritual body. Heaven's a place of love, perfect love. To enter there, he said in the Sermon on the Mount, your love must be as perfect as her love, the heavenly creator. So it's just a fact. So these Jewish Christians are really causing trouble, still teaching this apocalyptic rubbish and the book of Revelation. And the Jewish religion, Yahweh is not one God, there are two Yahwehs. That's my really main sort of help to children who have left the Jewish Christian churches. Once, if you hear me speak this and you look at it yourself, look at it for yourself, at what happened at Jericho, and ask yourself, that doesn't actually seem to be like the God of Jesus. That guy on YouTube's right. Decide it for yourself. I'm not saying you just believe me because I say it. It's just logical, intelligent, spiritual faith. God is love. Become love, and you'll be in heaven. And you'll waken up your spiritual body, and you'll be safe after death. Before then, well, we can all get damaged. Don't worry. Pain and suffering ends at death anyway, providing you haven't become one of the mass satanic murderers that are roaming around the Northern Hemisphere at the moment. Okay, on we go. Love your way to heaven, or hate your way to hell. The choice is yours. They only want you to come to heaven, Jesus and the loving Creator.